Welcome to Wednesday Live with Anton Gunn. I'm excited about being with you again this week. I got a lot of great content. It is 2 p.m. East Coast time, 11 a.m. Pacific on Wednesday. You all know that means it's Wu-Tang Wednesday. Something great is going to be in store for you today and going forward. Before I jump into today's topic, which is about emotional intelligence, I want to talk about the month of August. The month of August is the year in which hip hop started. And so we're in the 50th anniversary of hip hop as a music and a culture and art form. So in the month of August, I have a special 4-part series on what leadership lessons you can learn for yourself and your organization through the lens of hip hop music and culture. So I'm excited about it. Don't miss anything that we have going to drop for you in the month of August. It's going to be phenomenal. But before I jump into August, I want to stay focused on where we are currently. And the last 3 weeks, I've been talking about how do you achieve your goals and how do you hit those benchmarks of where you want to be. Well, now I want to pivot to something that I think is just as important, actually more important. Before you can achieve any goals, you got to have some emotional intelligence. Why is emotional intelligence important, or EQ as some people refer to? We know about IQ, which is your intelligence quotient, but we're going to talk about EQ today. And when I mean EQ, I'm really talking about emotional intelligence. Now, before I tell you what it is or how you can improve your emotional intelligence, I want to talk a few minutes around what is it? Because you hear people use the term soft skills. You might hear them say people skills. These are all misnomers for what we really should be talking about, and that are essential skills. That if you want to be successful as a leader in any work environment, if you want to pursue any goal or dreams, let me just be clear, you don't even have to be a leader. If you want to get the right job and be successful at it, if you want to get the right career opportunity and be successful at it, you have to have emotional intelligence. You have to understand that in the environment at work, the people around you and how you react to that environment and the people around you will determine your success or failure in life. That again, if you don't know how you react around certain people, you could create a disastrous situation because you might assume something that's not even the case. You might even work in a place that might be the best place to work at all across the board. But if you don't go into that environment with the right knowledge, the right approach, the right decision-making apparatus, you might make some mistakes that could cost you that career opportunity. So that's the importance of having emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is really they have the ability to have self-awareness about you, the self-awareness about people, and self-awareness about your environment. You got to know what's going on at all times. You cannot afford to be blind to anything. And I will tell you, there's so many people in the workplace today suffer from social blindness. They suffer from all types of social blindness around what's happening at work. Let me give you a little bit of an insight on this. See, if you take your entire organization, if you look at every person that works inside your organization, they all fit into 3 or 4 buckets. Now, what do I mean 3 or 4 buckets? There are 4 categories of people, 4 types of people that you work with every single day. You fall into this bucket. I fall into this bucket. We all fall into these same buckets. But let me give you the context before I tell you what the buckets are. Let's say you work in a workplace. You're doing your job every day. You're going on about your business, and all of a sudden, there's a national news headline about some scandal at work. It could be a sexual harassment scandal. It could be a racism scandal. It could be insider trading. It could be any kind of scandal. You can just make up some kind of bad scandal that you've seen at some company or organization over the last 50 years. Well, when that happens at work, there are 4 types of people in your organization. Category of persons number 1 are the 50% of the employees at work who didn't even know that anything was going wrong. They didn't know about the scandal. They were living in oblivion. They're completely blind. They suffer from blindness around what's going on in the workplace. 50% of people are blind. These are the people who come in on Tuesday morning and say, did something happen yesterday? Did somebody get fired yesterday? Man, what's all the noise out? Why are the TV cameras out front? I don't know what's going on. Yes, that's right. You and so many other people are blind to what's going on in the workplace. You have no awareness about anything that's going on. Then the second group of people are the 35%. The 35% of the people are the people who are aware that something is going on, but don't do anything about it. They literally don't believe that there's their job, they have a responsibility, have any kind of capability to do anything about what's going wrong. So if there's some kind of scandal that's going on, they'll say things like, well, that ain't my responsibility. I just work here. Or that was HR's job. Or the board of directors were negligent in managing that issue. They'll find a way to put the blame and the responsibility on somebody else. That is 35%. So you got 50% of people who are living in oblivion, blind to the facts of any situation that's going on at work. And you got 35% of people who know what's going on, but they don't have the intelligence or the ability to do anything about it. 85% in those two groups already. Now, here's the third group. The third group are the ones who not only knew something was going wrong, they had the ability to do something about it, but they chose to do nothing. Now, why would they choose to do nothing about a bad situation at work? Well, it happens all of the time. Some people see the bad situation and allow it to go on because they have a mistaken belief that they benefit from that bad situation. That, hey, if we have a big scandal here at work, then they're going to see how valuable I am and that they need to rely on me. And if they would have trusted me in the first place, this scandal wouldn't happen. Or they might be a person who sees a scandal go on and said, this is a great crisis for me to seize an opportunity. That they use crisis to elevate themselves. Or they might be the person that says, you know what? I'm the one that created the scandal because I'm going to get a bonus out of this whole circumstance. Yes, there are people in every organization who believe the wrong way, that by perpetuating a bad situation, that they're going to benefit morally, socially, economically, financially, and even politically when you think about workplace politics. And that's about 10% of the people. So there you have it. You got 50% living in oblivion. You got 35% who know better, but don't do anything about it. And then you got 10% of the people who are consciously making the chaos happen in the workplace. That's 95% of people inside your organization. But today, we're going to talk about the 5%. The 5% are the people who aren't living in oblivion. They see things that go wrong and they do something about it. And they surely don't partner or collude or connect with those in the 10%. These are the leaders who have the highest levels of emotional intelligence. They are self-aware, they're others aware, and they are aware of their environment. So for the next few minutes, I want to give you some ways in which you can increase your emotional intelligence. Now, I told you, if you don't have emotional intelligence, you're going to make some big mistakes, some massive mistakes. You're going to have some error in your ways. You're going to do some things that are going to hurt you, your brand, your reputation, and maybe even other people. If you don't have emotional intelligence, you might say the wrong thing to the wrong person at the wrong time and make a situation a lot worse. But if you have emotional intelligence, you will become the leader that everybody will admire. You will become that person that people will ask to help. You will become that person that is a resource and a source of leadership and inspiration for everybody around you, everybody that you're connected to. So here's the first thing you need to do if you want to increase, if you want to raise your emotional intelligence, if you want to raise your EQ, the first thing you need to do is to be self-aware. Now, when I mean self-aware, you need to be aware of how you react to other people and how you react in circumstances and situations. Self-awareness is being aware that when certain people say things, does it get under your skin? Do you know if it gets under your skin or not? When certain people come into the room, do you tend to back away or do you tend to confront them? Self-awareness is being fully aware of how you personally respond and react to people. How do people make you feel and react in any kind of circumstance or situation? That's what self-awareness is. So let's talk it out real quick of things you can do. You really got to evaluate yourself. You got to evaluate how you respond and react to people and situations. Now, sometimes it's hard for us to evaluate ourselves, especially when you're really in the moment. So what I encourage everybody to do if they want to increase their emotional intelligence, there's some tests that you can take to find out who you are, to find out your self-evaluation, how you see yourself in the world and how the world should be able to see you. One example is a famous one that we all are aware of, and it is known as the Myers-Briggs Personality Assessment. I encourage everybody to take a Myers-Briggs Personality Assessment generally every 5 years. The reason why I say every 5 years, because you think that your personality is your personality, but I'm telling you, your personality evolves over time. Why? Because you are at a different position today than you were 10 years ago. You're in a different position today than you were 20 years ago. And so if you took a Myers-Briggs back in 1993, I'm totally confident that you will not be the same profile in Myers-Briggs today as you were then. Why am I confident? It's because unless you're doing the same job with the same people in the same place and it hadn't changed since 1993, then you're going to be different. You are. So I encourage you to take a Myers-Briggs. Really learn your personality type. Are you an introvert? Are you an extrovert? Okay. Do you judge people? Are you perceptive? Your Myers-Briggs is going to give you a profile of who you are. That's the first way to increase your self-awareness. A second one that is also very popular is Strengths Finders. If you haven't done a Strengths Finders assessment to see what your strengths are, to see what natural attributes you bring into every organization, in every situation, then you're missing an opportunity to add value to any environment. So I encourage you to take a Strengths Finders, to know what your strengths are. These are simple assessments that you can find online almost anywhere. Yeah, it might cost you a little bit of money, but I'm telling you, learning about yourself is the greatest way to increase your emotional intelligence. You got to know who you are, how you might react in a situation, what you like and what you don't like, how you want others to see you and how you see yourself. The Strengths Finders, the Myers-Briggs are great tools for that. Now, my favorite tool is the third tool that I'm getting ready to share with you, and that is an Enneagram test. An Enneagram assessment, and that's spelled, I'm not even going to spell it, but it starts with an E. It's not an I, but it's an E. Everybody should take an Enneagram assessment. It really is going to give you some insights on you at the deepest level possible. Now, I know some people don't think these assessments work or that they're real or that they're validated in any kind of way. All of these tools, the Myers-Briggs, the Strengths Finders, and the Enneagram of all have been validated, statistically validated tools. That if you do an Enneagram assessment and it tells you what type of person you are on that scale, whether you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it's going to tell you who you are. And when you read the full assessment, it really is going to let you know why you do the things that you do. Why do you try to prove to people that you're smart? Or why do you try to curry favor with certain people? Why don't you speak up at meetings? Why don't you speak out about social issues in your community? It's all going to be right there in the Enneagram assessment. I encourage you, if you want to increase your self-awareness, if you want to increase your emotional intelligence, the Enneagram assessment is a great one for you. Here's another one. There's a woman named Sally Hogshead. She's a speaker and consultant, kind of like I do, speaking and consultant. She has a great assessment, and it's called Your Fascination Advantage. And that is what makes you unique and fascinating to other people in the world. Now, I probably should be giving out my affiliate link in order for you to take the Fascination Advantage assessment, because I've done some of Sally's assessments and used them on my teams in several places, but I'm not giving it out. I want you to go and get it on your own. Okay. It's a great assessment for you to literally see how you describe yourself to the world. All of these things are giving you greater self-awareness. Now, again, as I said, self-awareness is the key to increasing your emotional intelligence, the greatest key to increasing your emotional intelligence. Now, the second great key to increasing your emotional intelligence is being knowledgeable about other people. Now, when I say being knowledgeable about other people, I'm talking about being knowledgeable about the culture of other people, the culture and nuances of what make people different and unique. No, I'm not trying to give you some undercover diversity message, but I'm telling you right now, if you want to be a great leader and you want to have the highest levels of emotional intelligence, you have to have an appreciation for the diversity of the tapestry in our nation and in our world. You have to. And not understand why certain communities, certain groups, certain collectives, certain people who have certain degrees and backgrounds and come from certain zip codes do what they do, the way that they do it. And let me be clear, I'm not telling you to judge them. I'm telling you to understand them. See, the problem is when you don't have emotional intelligence is when you make a decision to judge people who are different than you. But I'm telling you to do your best to understand those people who are different than you. What makes them tick? What inspires them? What motivates them? Why do they care about certain things? Why are certain foods important to them? Certain holidays are important to them. Not your holidays. I'm talking about the team that you lead, their holidays. See, if you want to become an emotionally intelligent leader, you got to understand people. You got to know people individually, and you got to know people collectively in communities. So I would encourage you to learn about the diverse groups of people in your communities. Don't assume that all Asians are the same, because they are not. If you're from Korean descent or Chinese descent or Japanese descent, you have some cultures, some frameworks, some ideas, some food tastes, some behaviors that are different than those other Asian ethnic groups. And if you want to be a great leader, you should understand the difference between those groups. Like, I can't stand the fact that so many people assume that if someone speaks Spanish, that they're all the same, without the conscious acknowledgement and recognition that the Spanish diaspora, the Latin diaspora, is more than 22 countries that are all completely different. That if you're from Argentina, you have very little in common with someone that's from Mexico. And that if you're from Mexico, you have very little in common with someone that's from the Dominican Republic. and someone from the Dominican Republic has very little in common with someone from Cuba or from Puerto Rico. And all of them have something different than anybody who is a Spaniard who is from the country of Spain. The commonality is that they all speak Spanish. But guess what? They don't even speak Spanish all in the same way. And so if you work with people of Latin descent across the Hispanic diaspora in any way, shape, or form, you got to understand that they're not the same. And so you need to increase your emotional intelligence about people. You need to understand how different groups of people impact you and you impact them. Another thing you can do to increase your self-awareness around your interactions with others is consider taking a Harvard implicit association test. See, one of the things you need to understand as a leader that you have some biases. You're biased against certain people for certain reasons in certain ways. I don't know what your biases are, but you have some. But do you know what your biases are? Do you understand that your biases, your implicit biases, the ones that are not in your conscious mind, are literally affecting your daily decision making? Let me give you an example. Our brains are confronted with 11 million bits of information per second. 11 million bits of information per second is what your brain is confronted with at every moment. But we only have the cognitive ability to process 40 pieces of information. 40 pieces is only what we can process when 11 million are right in front of us. So how you make decisions is that your subconscious mind literally fills in the blanks of what your eyes cannot process. Your brains cannot process. Your subconscious mind literally makes a decision and processes all of the information that your eyes cannot help them to see and process. That's science. So it's important for you to understand how your biases impact your decision making. It does impact your decision making. It always has. Most of us don't know that. So you got to understand your relationship to others, the biases you have, and what makes them diverse and different. Now, the third part of how to increase your emotional intelligence is very simply is to understand your environment. And what do I mean your environment? To understand the environment at work, the workplace environment. See, every environment is completely different. It's just like every neighborhood is completely different. And the best leaders are the ones who understand the differences in those environments. You have great emotional intelligence when you understand the environment. You know, it's almost like we have some of this innately, like there's certain neighborhoods we know not to go in at night, or at least not by ourselves at night. There's certain neighborhoods that we know that we're not allowed to be in for certain reasons. Certain buildings we're not allowed to be in. Certain floors in certain buildings that we're not allowed to go on those floors. See, we have some of that emotional intelligence about our environment. But my question for you at work, do you have emotional intelligence about your workplace culture? About how things operate at work? Are you fully understanding of how things go down around here? But I'm here to tell you that most people only know their little corner of the world. That if you're in the marketing division and you're the senior leader there, that's the only thing you really focus on is what's going on in marketing. You don't talk about supply chain. You don't talk about what's going on in the finance office. You only are aware of your immediate environment. But you should understand as a leader how your environment affects other environments. And that if in the marketing department, you guys go over budget, or if you don't do the marketing plan right, how it's going to impact other areas in the organization. And so the most emotionally intelligent leader is the one that's not only able to think about what matters in their immediate circle, but what matters in other parts of the organization. How what you do today might impact someone in another area today, or how what you do today may impact the business long-term tomorrow. If you want to increase your emotional intelligence, you got to be aware of the environment. So that's what I got for you today, is I want you to increase your emotional intelligence. It literally is the key of how people get promoted to C-suite roles. If you want to be promoted to a C-suite role, you have to have strong emotional intelligence. If you want to keep your C-suite job, you better increase your emotional intelligence. And if you want to achieve that long-term visionary picture of that career path that you want, you better focus on your emotional intelligence. You got to understand people, you got to understand yourself, and you got to understand the environment. If you do that, you're going to put yourself in a position to be successful long-term. You're going to put yourself in a position that not only will you lead in the workplace, but you'll lead for life. Because my shirt says it all, that leadership is a lifestyle. A lifestyle means that you are not just doing it because someone says that you should do it. You should do it because that's how you want to live. Do you want to live like a leader? Do you want to live like a person who will have a legacy lasting impact on every person you touch? If you do, then you need to focus on increasing your emotional intelligence. You got to understand yourself. Take some assessments, personality assessments, strength finders, Enneagram, Myers-Briggs, Fascination Advantage. Take them all to see who you are. Then take some other tests, spend some time with diverse groups of people to understand how you interact with people who are different than you. Appreciate diversity. Be aware of your implicit bias, your unconscious bias, the things that you don't know that you do, and you do them. Spend some time focusing on that. And then spend some time focusing and understanding your work environment, the community that you're in, the city that you're in, the state that you're in, and yes, the world that we live in. The greatest leaders are the ones who continue to increase their emotional intelligence. And if you want a tool to help you to continue to increase your emotional intelligence, I encourage you to download my Just Lead Toolkit. There's a lot of tools in there to help you to be more emotionally intelligent as a leader. You can get it at antongunn.com/toolkit. And if this message inspired you in any kind of way, I want you to like it, I want you to subscribe, and I want you to share it with someone who needs to increase their emotional intelligence or to tap in to how they can become the leader that everybody admires. With that, I want to thank you for your time and your attention. I hope you have a fantastic week, and I look forward to talking to you next Wednesday, 2 p.m. East Coast time, 11 a.m. Pacific. It's time to get in where you fit in. Everybody have a great day.